My dad and sister came to my house and told me to give it to her because she had kids. I refused. Days later, they showed up with a moving truck and a locksmith trying to take over my house. Anyway, I, 32 male, never thought I'd be sharing this absolute cluster of a situation on Reddit, but here I am, still shaking with anger as I type this. First, let me paint you a picture of my life for the past decade. I've been working as a veterinary technician at one of the busiest animal hospitals in our city. It's not exactly rolling in cash. I make about $65,000 a year, but I absolutely love what I do. There's something special about helping sick animals get better, even if it means getting scratched, bitten, and covered in various bodily fluids on a daily basis. Plus the look on an owner's face when you help save their pet that's worth more than any six-figure tech salary if you ask me. But man, saving for a house on a vet tech salary, that's been a whole different kind of challenge. Since I was 22, I've been living like a college student trying to make this dream happen. Shared a cramped apartment with 3 other guys, one of whom was definitely running some kind of illegal cheese import business from his bedroom. Don't ask, the smell still haunts me. Drove this ancient Honda Civic that made sounds I'm pretty sure cars shouldn't make. Lived off the cheapest meal prep you can imagine. If there was a sale on ramen or frozen burritos, I was there. Meanwhile, my sister Sarah, 35 female, oh boy, where do I even start with Sarah? Picture every entitled Instagram influencer wannabe you've ever seen, multiply it by 10, add 3 kids from 3 different baby daddies, and you're getting close. She's got this whole lifestyle brand thing going on, rejoining every pyramid scheme that comes her way, and convincing our parents to invest. Her kids are 8, 5, and 2. Cute kids, don't get me wrong, but she uses them like accessories for her Instagram. She's always posting these staged photos of them in matching designer outfits with captions like, "Blessed Mama raising my tribe," while simultaneously pawning them off on our parents so she can go to business meetings, aka cocktails, with other MLM huns. The kicker, she hasn't held down a real job since she quit her hostess gig at Applebee's in high school because, and I quote, the uniform didn't match her aesthetic. But somehow, she always has the latest iPhone, a closet full of designer bags, and goes on these lavish business retreats to Cancun. How? 2 words, our parents, especially Dad. Man, the way he treats Sarah versus me, it's like we're not even from the same family. Growing up, if I needed new shoes for school money, doesn't grow on trees, son. But if Sarah needed a new MacBook because her old one was last year's model, Dad's credit card materializes faster than you can say Daddy's princess. I tried not to let it bother me too much over the years. I was building my own life, doing my own thing. Sure, living with roommates in my late 20s while Sarah lived in our parents' guest house rent-free wasn't ideal, but I had a plan. Every extra dollar I made doing overnight emergency shifts or picking up extra hours went straight into my house fund. While Sarah was blowing money on cryptocurrency schemes recommended by her latest boyfriend, I was learning everything I could about mortgages, property taxes, and home maintenance. Finally, after nearly a decade of saving, living like a monk, and working more overtime than I can count, I did it. Found this cozy 3-bedroom ranch-style house in a decent neighborhood. Nothing fancy, definitely needed some TLC, got this weird carpet in the bathroom that I'm pretty sure is older than I am, and the previous owner had some questionable ideas about accent walls. Who paints a kitchen neon orange? But it was within my budget, structurally sound, and most importantly, it was mine. The day I got the keys, I literally sat on the floor of my empty living room and cried. Pathetic, maybe, but after watching Sarah get handed everything her whole life while I worked my ass off for every single thing I had, this felt like vindication, like proof that doing things the right way, the hard way, could actually pay off. Oh, and speaking of Sarah getting handed things, here's where the story really starts to get interesting. See, 5 years ago, our parents gave her a house. Not just any house. We're talking a gorgeous 4-bedroom in the fancy part of town, the kind of place where people have those little signs advertising their home security system and everyone drives a Tesla. Way nicer than my place, probably worth twice as much. Want to guess how long it took her to completely screw that up? Less than a year. She convinced Dad it would be a smart investment move to sell the house and use the money to fund her latest business venture, some combination of a juice cleanse program and a music production company for her boyfriend at the time. Spoiler alert, he took the money and disappeared. Now she's back living in our parents' guest house, rent-free of course, while they pay for everything from her kids' private school tuition to her monthly self-care spa treatments. But hey, I was doing my thing, living my life, slowly fixing up my house room by room. Got rid of that bathroom carpet, seriously, who puts carpet in a bathroom? Painted over the neon orange kitchen. Even started a proper home office. Life was good. Then, last month everything went straight to hell. It was a Tuesday, and I had just finished probably the roughest shift of my career. Had to assist with 3 back-to-back emergency surgeries, including this poor German shepherd who'd swallowed an entire kid's toy collection. I'm talking Legos, Hot Wheels, the works. By the time I got home, I was running on nothing but coffee and pure willpower. I just collapsed onto my couch, this old but super comfortable thing I found at a garage sale, when my phone rings. It's Dad. Now, Dad calling isn't usually a big deal, but something felt off. Maybe it was the way he was trying too hard to sound casual, or maybe it was just my exhausted brain being paranoid, but my gut was screaming that something was up. "Hey son, you home? Mind if I stop by for a bit? Need to discuss something with you?" Should have trusted my gut. 20 minutes later, I hear not one, but 2 cars pull up in my driveway. From my front window, I watch Dad step out of his Mercedes, the one he bought for the family, but only Sarah gets to drive. Then, out of a brand new Range Rover, probably also financed by Dad, comes Sarah tottering on these ridiculous red-bottom Louboutins that definitely cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. I should have slammed the door right then. They walk in like they own the place. Sarah immediately starts critiquing everything. "Ugh, this furniture is so basic." "Yeah, because some of us buy things with our own money, sis. These walls need to be white for my aesthetic. They're beige, but whatever. This would make such a cute room for Jaden's TikTok studio. Her 8-year-old does not need a TikTok studio." We sit down in my living room, Sarah sprawled across my armchair like it's a photo shoot set, still intermittently recording stuff on her phone. Dad clears his throat, does this weird laugh thing, and then drops the bomb that started this whole nightmare. "So, son, your sister's been going through some challenges lately?" Sarah immediately jumps in with the dramatics. "Oh my God, Dad, don't make it sound so tragic. I'm just like pivoting my business model." She turns to me with this fake, sympathetic look. My meditation crystal business didn't exactly align with my authentic self, you know. I'm sitting there thinking about the $20,000 Dad invested in her crystal business 3 months ago, but I keep my mouth shut. Dad continues. "Well, anyway, we've been thinking this house is really too big for just one person. Your sister has 3 growing children and they need space to thrive. We think," he pauses for effect, "you should give Sarah your house." I legit thought I was hallucinating from exhaustion, like maybe I fell asleep at work, and this was some weird dream brought on by too much coffee and the lingering smell of dog surgery. "Excuse me. What?" Sarah rolls her eyes so hard I'm surprised they didn't get stuck. "God, don't be so dramatic. It's not like you're using all this space." She gestures vaguely with her phone still recording. "I need a proper space for my content creation. The guest house lighting is totally killing my engagement metrics." I look at Dad waiting for the punchline, but he's got that same expression he always has when Sarah wants something, that just give her what she wants so we can have peace. "Look, you can't be serious," I say. Dad leans forward using his reasonable businessman voice. "We've thought this through. You're young, single, focused on your career. You could easily get an apartment closer to the animal hospital. Sarah needs stability for the kids." "Stability." I almost choke. "Like the stability of the house you gave her that she sold for her ex's music career." Sarah's head snaps up from her phone. That was different. Jackson's mixtape was going to be huge. How was I supposed to know he'd run off to Miami with that SoundCloud rapper? Dad raises his hands in this placating gesture that makes my blood boil. The past is the past. This is about family, about helping your sister get back on her feet. Back on her feet. I laugh, but there's no humor in it. She's never been on her feet. You've carried her through every bad decision she's ever made. Sarah gasps, like I've personally offended her entire Instagram following. I am a boss babe running multiple businesses. Pyramid schemes aren't businesses, Sarah. That's when Dad pulls out his trump card, the one he probably thought would end all discussion. "Son, if you don't help your sister out here, well, you might want to reconsider your position in the will." The room goes dead silent. Even Sarah stops recording. And you know what? In that moment, something in me just snapped. All those years of watching Sarah get everything while I worked my ass off, all the times I kept my mouth shut to keep the peace, it all came boiling up. I stood up, walked to my home office, ignoring Sarah's "oh my God, so rude," and came back with a folder. A folder I'd been keeping since the day Sarah sold her house, because some part of me knew this day would come. You want to talk about the will, Dad? Let's talk about it. Quick backstory on this folder. The day Sarah sold her house, something clicked in my brain. Maybe it was all those years working with sick animals, seeing how one small thing can snowball into a huge problem if you don't document everything. So I started keeping records. Every receipt, every text message, every social media post where Sarah bragged about her investments. Call it paranoid, but working 12-hour shifts at the animal hospital teaches you to trust your instincts. I dropped the folder on my coffee table, which Sarah had just called tragically suburban 10 minutes ago. The thud it makes is honestly kind of satisfying. Let's do some math, Dad, I say, pulling out the first document. The house you gave Sarah, the one in Oakwood Heights? Let's talk about what it was worth. Sarah scoffs, finally putting her phone down. Oh my God, are you still bitter about that? That was like forever ago. I'm trying to manifest abundance here, and your negative energy is totally blocking my chakras. I ignore her and focus on Dad. The property records show it was worth $875,000 when you gave it to her. Know what she sold it for? $890,000. And where did that money go? Dad's starting to look uncomfortable. Sarah's examining her nails like they're suddenly the most interesting things in the world. I pull out more papers. Let's see, $50,000 to invest in Jackson's music career. He disappeared with that money 2 weeks later, but hey, at least she got a face tattoo out of that relationship. Then there was $200,000 for her crystal healing empire, which lasted exactly 3 months before she declared that crystals were so 2022. Oh, and let's not forget the $300,000 she invested in that pyramid scheme selling magnetic water or whatever it was. It was alkaline ionized wellness water. Sarah interrupts like that makes it better, and that only failed because people weren't ready for that level of hydration consciousness. I continue laying out paper after paper. The rest went to designer bags, that Range Rover she couldn't afford the payments on, and God knows what else. But here's the interesting part, Dad. I had a friend who works in real estate look up the current value of your estate. Dad's face goes from uncomfortable to ghost white. Sarah is still pretending to be absorbed in her manicure, but I can see her shoulders tensing up. Your house, your investments, everything you have left worth less than what Sarah's house sold for. She's already gotten her inheritance. Actually, she's gotten more than her share. She just blew through it in record time. The silence in the room is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Sarah's face is doing this weird thing where she's trying to maintain her influencer smile, but her eye is twitching. Dad looks like he's about to have a stroke. So go ahead, I say, leaning back in my chair. Cut me out of the will. There's nothing left to cut me out of anyway. That's when Sarah explodes. This is so unfair, she shrieks, jumping up from her chair. You can't just throw numbers around like this. Money isn't everything. What about my children? What about their future? The same children you're exploiting for Instagram sponsors, I shoot back. The ones you're trying to turn into TikTok stars before they can even read properly. At least I have children, she screams. What do you have? Have a bunch of sick animals and this? She waves her hands around frantically. This basic suburban nightmare. Dad finally finds his voice. Now, son, these numbers, they're not telling the whole story. Your sister's businesses were investments in her future. I cut him off. No, Dad, they were you enabling her to avoid responsibility again. And now that you've run out of things to give her, you're trying to take my house, the one thing I worked my ass off for, without any help from you. Sarah's full-on crying now, but there are those weird influencer tears where she's clearly trying to angle her face to catch the light better. You don't understand. I need a proper space for my content. The guest house lighting is killing my engagement metrics. My followers expect a certain aesthetic. Your followers? I laugh. You mean the ones you bought because I've got receipts for that too? Her jaw drops. You wouldn't. I pull out another stack of papers. 10,000 fake followers purchased last month alone. Wonder what your sponsors would think about that. Dad stands up, trying to regain control of the situation. That's enough. This kind of behavior is exactly why we're worried about you. This isn't how family treats each other. No, Dad, this isn't how family treats each other. Family doesn't try to steal each other's homes. Family doesn't enable one kid while screwing over the other. And family definitely doesn't threaten to cut someone out of a will that's already empty. Sarah's mascara is running now. Waterproof my ass, that's what you get for buying counterfeit makeup, but she's still trying to film bits of this on her phone. My followers are going to hear about this. Just wait until I post about this toxic family drama. Post away, I say, pulling out one final document, but you might want to read this first. Remember that contract you signed with Dad when he gave you the house? The one that said you'd use the money responsibly? The one that technically makes you liable for fraud since you lied about your business investments. The phone slips from her hand and clatters to the floor. I stand up, gathering my papers. Now get out of my house, both of you. And if you ever try to threaten me with inheritance again, these papers go straight to a lawyer. After I kicked them out that night, I honestly thought that would be the end of it. Like, who in their right mind would try anything after being exposed like that? But I guess I underestimated just how entitled Sarah really is and how far Dad would go to enable her crazy behavior. The next few days were relatively quiet except for Sarah's passive-aggressive Instagram posts about toxic family members and negative energy vampires. Pretty sure she meant me, LOL. She even posted this long story about how sometimes the universe makes you struggle to prepare you for abundance or some BS like that. Meanwhile, she's posting from a spa day that Dad definitely paid for wearing another new designer outfit. I was working my usual shifts at the animal hospital trying to get back to normal. Had this really sweet case with a rescue pit bull who needed surgery. She's doing great now, by the way, totally thriving with her new family. Everything seemed to be calming down. Then last Thursday happened. I was in the middle of a complicated cat dental procedure. Fun fact, cat teeth are way more complex than people think, when my phone starts blowing up like non-stop vibrating in my pocket. Now normally, I never check my phone during procedures, but something felt off. During my break, I finally looked at my messages. Holy freaking hell! First message was from my next-door neighbor, Mike. Dude, there's a moving truck in your driveway. Then from my other neighbor, Karen, actually a super nice Karen. Not the stereotype. There are people moving furniture into your house. Is everything okay? Then a series of increasingly panicked messages from both of them about how Sarah and Dad were literally moving stuff into my house. I immediately called Mike, my hands shaking so bad I could barely hold the phone. Mike, what the hell is happening? Bro, your sister and Dad showed up about an hour ago with a U-Haul and some moving guys. They had a locksmith with them. Said something about you giving them the house. I thought it seemed weird but didn't want to assume. I felt like I was going to throw up. Told my supervisor I had a family emergency understatement of the century and raced home. The whole drive my mind was spinning. They couldn't be this crazy, right? This had to be some kind of mistake. Nope. Pull up to my house and there it is, a massive U-Haul in my driveway. Sarah directing some very confused-looking movers while she films everything for her Instagram, and Dad talking to a locksmith who's actively changing my locks. The best part, Sarah's 3 kids are running around my front yard screaming, "We get to pick our rooms," while she's yelling at them about ruining her Instagram live. Her youngest, who's like 2, is literally drawing on my garage door with markers while she's too busy filming to notice. I park my car blocking the U-Haul, no way they're getting that thing out now, and storm up to my front door. Sarah sees me and has the absolute audacity to look annoyed. Ugh, what are you doing here? You're totally ruining the surprise for my followers. I was going to do a whole home renovation series. I'm literally shaking with rage at this point. What am I doing here? This is my house. Dad steps in trying to act all calm and businesslike, while a locksmith is literally committing a crime behind him. Now, son, we figured since you were being unreasonable, we'd help you make the right decision. You can't just leave your sister and her children homeless. Homeless. She lives in your guest house for free. Sarah rolls her eyes, still filming. That's not the point. The guest house doesn't have a home theater room. Where am I supposed to film my motivational Monday videos? I pull out my phone to call the cops, and that's when Sarah shows her true colors. She grabs my arm, still filming with her other hand, of course, and says in this weirdly calm voice, "Go ahead, call them, but remember I have 3 kids. Who do you think they'll side with, the single guy who works with animals, or the poor single mom just trying to provide for her babies?" Dad nods along like this makes perfect sense. Think about how this will look. Look, son, just let your sister have the house. We can find you a nice apartment. I look at the locksmith who's looking mighty uncomfortable now. Did you verify who owned this house before changing the locks? He shifts nervously. They said it was a family property. Show him the papers. Sarah shrieks, her calm facade cracking. Dad, show him how this house belongs to the family. Dad starts fumbling in his briefcase, pulling out some obviously fake documents they probably printed at Kinko's. But I've got something better. I pull up my phone, open my files, and show the locksmith my deed mortgage documents and property tax records, all in my name, all legally filed. The locksmith's face goes white. Sarah's still filming, but now she's screaming about toxic masculinity and how I'm oppressing her dreams. Dad's trying to talk over everyone about family obligations and doing the right thing. And that's when I did something that changed everything. I pressed dial on my phone and said the words that made Sarah's fake Instagram smile disappear completely. Yes, police, I'd like to report a breaking and entering in progress. What happened next was like watching a train wreck in slow motion, but make it Instagram worthy. Sarah immediately switched into full mommy influencer crisis mode. "Oh my God, are you filming this?" she shrieked, actually trying to position herself for better lighting while having a meltdown. "This is literally abuse. I'm literally shaking right now. My followers will not believe this toxic masculinity." Meanwhile, Dad's going through the 5 stages of grief in record time. "Son, think about what you're doing," he says, his voice doing that weird thing where he's trying to sound authoritative, but you can hear the panic creeping in. "This is family. We can work this out." The locksmith, bless his heart, is frantically packing up his tools like he's on some kind of speedrun challenge. I don't blame him. This is probably not what he signed up for when he went to locksmith school. Is that a thing? Whatever. Here's where it gets even better. Sarah's oldest kid, Jaden, who's been watching too many TikToks, apparently decides this is the perfect moment to start his influencer career. This 8-year-old pulls out an iPad, probably worth more than my first car, and starts doing a commentary. "What's up, guys? Welcome to my channel. Today, we're watching my mom get a new house, but my uncle is being super sus right now. I wish I was making this up." The cops arrive in what felt like forever, but was probably only about 10 minutes. 2 patrol cars pull up and Sarah immediately, and I mean immediately, switches into her poor, helpless single mother act. You know those videos of fainting goats? Yeah, it was kind of like that, but with more designer labels and fake tears. "Officers," she wails, somehow managing to find the perfect camera angle while pretending to be distraught. "Thank goodness you're here. My brother is trying to keep me and my babies homeless. Look at their little faces." But here's the thing about real police officers. They're not Sarah's Instagram followers. They're not Dad's golf buddies. They deal with actual laws and facts. "Ma'am, we need to see some identification and proof of residence," says the first officer, completely unbothered by Sarah's Oscar-worthy performance. I pull out my phone and show them everything. Property deed, mortgage statements, tax records, all of it. Then I show them my driver's license with this address. "Officers," I say, trying to keep my voice steady, "these people are trying to break into my house. They hired a locksmith to change my locks while I was at work. They're literally moving furniture in as we speak." Sarah tries to interrupt with some story about family property and agreements, but the second officer cuts her off. "Ma'am, do you have any legal documentation showing your right to be here?" Dad steps forward with his Kinko's special documents. The officer takes one look at them, and I kid you not, actually sighs like he's dealing with kindergartners who did their homework in crayon. "Sir, these are not legal property documents. This appears to be a PowerPoint presentation printed on fancy paper." Y'all, the shade in this officer's voice. I almost felt bad for Dad. Almost. The officers exchange this look that I can only describe as 100% done with this nonsense. "Ma'am, you need to stop recording and step outside the property. This is a potential crime scene." A crime scene. Sarah's voice hits a pitch that probably had dogs howling 3 blocks away. "This is family matters. This is about my children." The officer turns to me. "Sir, do you want to press charges?" Sarah's face drops faster than her last multi-level marketing scheme. Dad starts sputtering about family and reputation and something about his golf club membership. The officers were honestly amazing about the whole thing. They took statements from everyone, including the very uncomfortable locksmith, who turns out was totally willing to cooperate once he realized he'd almost helped commit a crime. The moving guys, too. They showed the officers their work order, which Sarah had filled out with some story about this being her investment property. Pretty sure that's fraud, but I'm not a lawyer. While one officer was taking statements, the other started supervising the removal of all the stuff they'd already moved in. You guys should have seen Sarah's face when they started carrying out her pink velvet monstrosity of a couch. Meanwhile, Dad's trying to handle damage control on multiple fronts. He's on the phone with his lawyer, who's apparently not taking his calls. Guess those country club connections aren't so solid after all. while also trying to keep Sarah from completely melting down and trying to wrangle the kids who are still treating this whole thing like some kind of YouTube challenge. That's when Sarah's middle kid, Mason, drops the bomb that changed everything. This 5-year-old genius looks at the officer and says, "Are we going to jail like when mommy took stuff from the mall?" The officer's eyebrow goes up so fast it probably broke the sound barrier. "Ma'am, is there something else we should know about?" Sarah's face goes through more filters than her Instagram posts. He's confused. He means when I had to return something. "Mason, sweetie mommy, told you not to talk about grown-up things. But Mason, bless his heart, is on a roll. But you said the security guy was mean for not believing you were a famous influencer, and then Dad had to come pay the store." "Mason!" Sarah screeches, actually dropping her phone for the first time since this whole thing started. "Go wait in the car now." The officers exchange this look that says volumes. One of them steps aside to make a call, and I can hear him asking dispatch to run Sarah's record. Dad looks like he's about to have an aneurysm while this is happening. The moving guys are still hauling stuff out. One of them comes up to me looking confused, holding this massive vision board covered in pictures of my house. Obviously screenshots from my realtor's old listing photos with Sarah's empire written across the top in glitter pen. Where should we put this?" Sarah actually tries to grab it. "That's my manifestation board. I spent hours choosing the right crystals to align the energy." The officer steps in. "Ma'am, all unauthorized items need to be removed from the property. But I already sage cleansed the space." That's when another patrol car pulls up. Turns out Mason's little comment about the mall incident. Yeah, there was an outstanding warrant for Sarah. Apparently being an influencer doesn't actually give you the right to walk out of Nordstrom wearing unpaid merchandise, even if you're planning to post about it later. The look on Sarah's face when they started reading her rights. Priceless. Though she did manage to ask if she could position herself for better lighting in her mugshot. Dad finally snaps into action, but not to help Sarah. No, this man starts frantically gathering up all the papers he'd brought, the fake property documents they'd made. The officer notices. "Sir, I'm going to need to see those papers." Dad actually tries to stuff them into his pocket like a kid hiding a bad report card. These are nothing. Just some family photos. "Sir, the papers now." As the officer starts looking through them, his expression gets more and more serious. Turns out, attempting to forge property documents is kind of a big deal. Who knew? While one officer is dealing with Sarah's arrest warrant and another is reviewing Dad's creative writing project, the locksmith pulls me aside. He's sweating bullets. "Look, man, I swear I didn't know. They said it was a family property, showed me some papers. I should have verified better. Please don't press charges against me. I'll make this right." I look at this guy clearly terrified of losing his license and make a decision that would turn out to be crucial later. "I will update you guys if anything happens." Final update, it's been 6 months since the attempted break-in, and holy hell, what a wild ride it's been. You guys have been asking for an update. Karma finally came to collect, and she brought receipts. Remember how I mentioned making a decision about the locksmith? Well, I decided not to press charges against him on one condition. He had to give a full statement about how Dad and Sarah presented those fake documents. Turns out this was a bigger deal than any of us realized because those weren't just badly made fake papers. They had forged signatures and stamps that made it full-on fraud. The locksmith's statement opened up a whole investigation. But here's where karma really went for the throat. Remember Mason's comment about Sarah's shoplifting? That opened up a massive can of worms. Turns out our little influencer had been running a whole scheme. She'd accept sponsorships from brands, order their products with the promotional codes they gave her, then return everything for cash refunds while still posting pre-filmed reviews with products she'd already returned. She had scammed over 30 companies this way. Dad's situation got even better. During the fraud investigation, they found out he'd been embezzling from his company to fund Sarah's lifestyle. All those designer bags, the private school tuition, the Range Rover, yeah, that was company money. He'd been cooking the books for years, writing everything off as business expenses for a fake consulting company he'd set up in Sarah's name. The dominoes started falling fast after that. Dad got fired and is facing criminal charges. The company's suing him for every penny. Sarah's facing multiple fraud charges plus the original shoplifting warrant. As for the kids, this is actually the one silver lining in this whole mess. Sarah's ex, Jaden's dad, stepped up and got custody of all 3 kids. Turns out he's got his life together now, married to a child psychologist, and living in a nice suburban home. The kids are in therapy, attending public school, the horror, and actually seem happier than ever. My house still mine, obviously. I've actually fixed up the garage door, goodbye marker drawings painted over Sarah's attempt at an accent wall, who paints one wall neon pink, and turned one of the spare rooms into a proper home office. The neighbors now joke that my house is the most secure building in the neighborhood. The best part of all this. Last week I got a letter from Sarah. She's writing from our mom's house in Florida, where she fled to avoid the media attention, begging me to help her with legal fees. Says she's learned her lesson and wants to rebuild our family bond. She even offered to promote my veterinary clinic on her Instagram, which has lost 80% of its followers since the arrest, by the way. I took a picture of her letter, wrote no on it in big red letters, and mailed it back. Final mini update. As I'm writing this, I just got word that Dad's trying to sell his life story to Netflix. Sarah's already posted about being in talks to play herself in the adaptation. I'm pretty sure they're both lying, but at this point, I just sit back and laugh. My house is paid for, my job is rewarding, and I never have to worry about finding crystals in my couch cushions ever again. Thanks for following this crazy journey, Reddit. Remember, sometimes the best family isn't the one you're born into, but the one you choose, even if that family has 4 legs and fur.